This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm here at Meadowlark Tattoo, brand new for 2019. They have provided custom permanent body art where everyone and anyone is welcome. I am joined by the owner, educator, artist, activist, quite a few titles you have. Okay, let's start off a little bit about yourself. You were born and raised Colorado. You're a native. Formally educated right here at CSU in wildlife biology as well as fine art. That's quite a pairing right there. Share with me a little bit how this got started for you and opening up your own shop.
Absolutely. So I've been interested in tattooing for a very long time. I did reports on it in high school, was very interested in how the human body is as a canvas that is alive, that is participatory. And through the twistings and windings of life, I ended up doing a lot of different things in the arts, also in activism, specifically working with sexual and gender minority individuals, working in healthcare spaces. I built looms and spinning wheels for a while. I taught college art. But I think somewhere in the back of my head, I always knew that tattooing was where I wanted to go. So when my wife and I came back from having been in Boston for a little while, I decided that I was really going to make a commitment to this, and I took on an apprenticeship, studied with a local shop, a guy here in town, and then when I completed that apprenticeship, I was thinking about my next steps, and I really thought that, you know, for me and for the clients that I want to serve, I think it's right for me to open my own space, and the stars aligned. I was able to find this really great community and open my little shop here.
That is excellent. I mean, quite honestly, like you say, growing up, you've always been an artist, something you have an interest in. You have now really displayed your art in numerous galleries, I mean, across the nation. Yet at the same time, we're talking about, like you said, a dream on the back burner of being a tattoo artist. Do you feel the fine artist and the tattoo artist is a nice balance for you?
I do. I think they complement each other and reinforce the best of both. And I think that what's really cool about tattooing right now is that the technology and the more wide acceptance of tattooing is allowing it to grow. And so we're seeing people trying things they'd never tried before. We're seeing techniques evolve. The technology, the machines we use are different than even 10 years ago. And so when I look at my fine art, it's more possible now than ever before to actually realize that image on someone's body and to think about how we can combine fine art and tattooing and also introduce tattooing into the fine art realm.
That is interesting. I mean, this is a new business for you, but as we know, tattoos have been around forever. We're talking about 3000 BC. We've seen tattoos on people. Why do you feel it is that this industry, tattoos in general, have not decreased in popularity, but really increased from thousands of years ago?
I think a big part of it is a sense of self-actualization and ego expression. People want now to show the world, this is who I am. These are signifiers of things that are important to me. I think when tattooing began, a lot of the driver was a sense of belonging. It was a signifier that I am a part of this community, this organization, this class of people, this is my vocation, something like that, or this is something I've achieved with my life, a certain level, or a signifier of adulthood. And I think in some ways we still have retained that, and you certainly see, you know, groups of people getting tattoos together or people getting tattoos that signify something about their larger familial sense of being. But more and more when people come to me, what they're looking for is something that is about their personal journey, whether it's a memorial tattoo, a story about something they hope for the future, or really just something that is, here I am, and I want everyone to see that.
About as personal as you can get when I think about it. I mean, that form of expression. The tattoo industry, I mean, it has evolved so much. I mean, just in the past few decades, what used to be something that maybe, I don't know, like you say, a biker group might have it, and maybe a military, that type of thing. Now it's mainstream. Is that an exciting time right now to be a part of that and see it as something that, like you say, evolves from that original, but yet now says so much more?
I do think it's really exciting. And part of what's exciting about it for me is that I'm seeing people who originally sort of shied away from tattooing because it was associated with cultures that didn't make sense to them, whether that was a biker culture or even gang membership or even, just a culture that didn't make sense, to now saying, wait a minute, this is art. This is something that not only is it art, but it's art that I can participate in a way that sometimes is a little bit harder to access when you're in a museum or you're in a gallery. You're seeing something and you're being asked to interpret it. When I make art as a tattoo on somebody, it's a communal and community and group process where we're working together, we're using references, we're using images, we're talking about their life, and suddenly they are an artist as well. And I think that's cool. One of the things I've noticed is that especially for women who are over the age of 30 and a lot of other older folks who I think grew up feeling that tattoos were sort of verboten, don't feel that way anymore. They are starting to get excited about getting tattoos.
That's very cool. Like you say, in the back burner was you to be an artist, was to be the dream of an artist. Somebody else, the back burner is always to get a tattoo. And like you say, that's something you can fulfill for them. Share with me a little bit about your facility here. Tell me a little bit about the rooms, what you got going on. Look like a great setup, but also at the same time, it's very welcoming, inviting. What is the image that you hope to portray for your tattoo parlor here?
Yes, I'm interested in having people feel like this is a warm, welcoming, bright space where they can be in a private space. The door closes, it's a completely private room where they feel safe, where there's not a lot of ambient noise, there's not a lot of people coming and going. And I think that's part of why being in a salon in a spa space really fit for me, more than being in a traditional tattoo parlor, because for the clients I'm interested in, they want to pick their own music. They want there to be, I've got a nice skylight in there and they want to see the sunshine and have all of those things enrich the experience. And I feel like when folks walk in the door here, it smells really nice. Things are really clean. There's small touches in the bathroom and, in the studio space that I hope make people feel really welcome and comfortable.
I definitely felt more relaxed when I walked in. I mean, obviously it's welcoming, it's inviting, yet at the same time, very clinical. I mean, safety, is that something that's very important? I mean, that's another thing that has changed in the tattoo industry. I mean, we're talking about the standards that are set are pretty amazing back there with the equipment and everything that you use. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I hold myself to an extremely high standard, and I'm grateful for the years that I spent working in the medical field, because it has actually helped me to understand deeply the why behind everything that I do. So I use hospital grade cleaners for everything, and I use a HEPA filter that's filtering the air every 30 minutes. It cycles the entire air in the space, all of the air in the space, and in keeping with industry standards that are emerging around cleanliness and sterility, I use only disposable needle cartridges. I don't reuse any needles. And I have a machine that's very easy to break down, clean all of the components. And by doing all of those different pieces, I feel like people are ensured a much higher degree of safety than used to be possible. We've got some really good tools at our disposal now.
Yeah, definitely. Quite a bit of stuff going on behind the scenes that make people feel at ease knowing that that's taken care of. Let me ask, when somebody comes in for a tattoo, do they normally come in with an idea of what they want? I mean, are they able to show imagery and things like that? And do you actually enjoy the process of being not just an artist, but really a collaborator, if you will, as the two of you work together?
I love that part of the job, and actually that's almost my favorite part of the job. As a totally custom studio, I don't have people who just walk in off the street. So everything's by appointment only. And I'll draw things all the time. And if I think it would make a cool tattoo, I put it up as available flash. But I don't have flash in the traditional sense where you've got, pictures on the walls. So most of my tattoos are the client's idea. And they come to me and they say, I've seen your work, I've seen your style. I think you could make my idea come to life. Let's talk about it. And when I first started, I wasn't very good at coaxing out the information I needed to go from their idea to an image. And it's been really rewarding to learn what questions to ask and how to listen to the person to really understand, oh, I see what you're getting at. This is the sort of image that you want. And then presenting them with the artwork before we do the tattoo and tweaking little things. And it really does become a collaborative process.
That is neat. Walk us through a little bit here. Someone out there, they've never had a tattoo before, nervous about it. What can they expect from that first consultation? Is that a consultation that's free where you can talk to them and see what they want? Walk through us what kind of questions you might be asking for somebody out there who's unsure of that first step.
Absolutely. So I do all my consultations via Zoom. And so that makes it really easy and low barrier to entry for a lot of people. They don't have to leave their house. You don't have to set aside a huge amount of time. You can just hop on, connect, and we're talking. And the first thing I usually say is, this is who I am. I'm so glad you got in touch. What are you thinking about? What's on your mind? And I try to keep it pretty open-ended because sometimes people say, well, I've always wanted a tattoo, but I don't even know what I'm interested in. And then I'll ask a series of questions. I'll say, okay, are you interested in a nature theme? Are you looking at something more abstract? Have you seen something specific on the website that jumps out to you, and we can go from there? Sometimes people show up and I start talking and they're like, this is exactly what I want. I've got a Pinterest board full of images. Here they all are, and it's really easy. Sometimes I'll even have my notebook there and I'll do a really quick, sort of like this, and I'll hold it up to the camera, and then they'll be like, oh yes, that looks just right.
What a cool thing to see.
Yeah.
When it was just in their head before, and all of a sudden, wow, he kind of sketched out something I'm looking at here. When you're speaking with them, are there different styles of tattoos? I mean, I know, like, I go buy furniture, you got different styles of furniture. Are there different styles of tattoos, and is there a certain style that you feel you gravitate towards, or it comes more natural to you?
There are a lot of different styles of tattoo.
Okay.
So you can think about Japanese traditional tattoo has a very specific look. You can think of Polynesian and Pacific Islander tattoos. Maori tattoos have a very specific look. And traditional U.S. tattoos that people were getting when they were in the Navy, when they would, come on for shore leave and line up in these big lines and get the sparrows and the pinup girls and the ships. It's a very specific look. Those are traditional styles. Right now, we're really seeing a lot of work. One is called neo-traditional, which takes some of those original themes from U.S. traditional work and adds the technology we now have in terms of color and shading and detail to those images. We also see something called new style, which can be, or new school, which can be almost anything. It's a lot of your anime characters, cartoons, big, bold colors. And then a lot of what I do is a very illustrative style, but not photorealistic. So there are tattoo artists who specialize in doing sort of hyper-realistic imagery, whether that's in black and gray or in color, and it looks like a photograph. I'm sort of in between that and just plain line work. So it's very much referencing that scientific illustration. It combines that wildlife biology and fine arts background that I have. And so you end up, if somebody gets a tattoo of a fox, for example, the fox is very recognizable. There's lots of detail, but it isn't a photorealistic image. It's much more like a book illustration.
That is interesting. I mean, these aren't your dad's tattoos of yesteryear by any means.
Yeah.
Amazing technology. Once a person has decided what they want, they set up an appointment, they come on in. I would imagine the more elaborate the tattoo, the longer they're going to be sitting in the chair. What are recommendations you give to help them as they come in, maybe to alleviate their fear, or also knowing they're going to be in one position maybe for hours?
One of the things that's very important to me is that people know that they're in charge at all times. And they don't have to sit there for longer than is comfortable, and they don't have to endure pain for no good reason. So I'll point people towards products like Dr. Numb, which is a topical numbing cream, or something similar to that. If they're worried about the pain, you put it on about an hour before the tattoo, you let it sit. It's got lidocaine in it, it soaks in, and it can help with the pain for about an hour and a half to 3 hours. Sometimes that's really useful for people. I also tell people, let's schedule for a 4-hour session. I think that's about how long your work is going to take. If we need to stop at 2 hours, that's fine. We'll stop at 2 hours. You can come back and we'll finish with the other 2 hours later. I also telegraph what I'm going to do. So once I put the stencil on, I tell people, okay, I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to use this sort of needle, and then I'm going to switch to doing a smaller needle and do some details. Then we're going to work on the shading. And that way people kind of have a roadmap of what to expect, so they're not surprised.
Speaking of needles, share with me the type that you use. I mean, you're using something which is a rotary machine. How does that differ from something else that people may be used to or have even tried before?
Without getting too technical, basically what a rotary machine does is it pushes the needle forward by having a gear that presses on a long rod, and that rod is pushing, in my case, on the back of a cartridge, and inside that cartridge there's a needle that then pokes out, and this is happening very, very fast. So it's a circular motion driven by that little motor inside. Traditional tattoo machines work on the pressure and release and snap of coils to drive that needle in. There's other kinds of tattoo machines that work in different ways. But with that, basically what's happening is that needle cartridge, I'm picking up the ink and I'm using differences in speed and how hard my hand is pressing to change the way that the light and other things are working in terms of how the ink goes into the skin. And so I can get a lot of variation that way. I also do find that with the rotary machine, clients report that there is less pain. And again, not getting too technical, I think part of that has to do with the amount of time that the needle actually stays in contact with the skin. The rotary machine allows the needle to stay in longer contact with the skin, and I can actually adjust it so that that press time lasts longer and is potentially softer. So I might be going a little bit slower, but you're not getting the super hard punch that you sometimes get with a coil machine. And so it can be a little bit less painful in some cases.
Speaking of pain, I mean, that's got to be a fear for a lot of people out there. First of all, we have the fear of the unknown. And the unknown is how we even handle pain. I mean, some people, come in and not sure, and maybe they realize it's probably easier than they thought, and some the opposite. What would you tell people to kind of put them at that ease that you haven't already explained, which is you're in control? How do you help people through that?
Usually we start first, and I always tell people, I can give you a sense of sort of what to expect and what some people have reported. Some people say it feels a bit like a cat scratch over and over. Some people say it feels a bit like a sunburn. We won't know how you feel until we start. And some people end up being like, oh, I have a way higher pain tolerance than I thought. Some people say, oh, I didn't expect it to hurt this much. And so after I've been working for about 15 minutes, I usually check in with them and I ask, okay, how are you feeling? How's the pain level? How are we dealing with this? Because that gives me a good gauge. Then I'll check in again at about 30 minutes to 45 minutes because the body's physiological response to pain goes in waves. So initially you'll get a spike of adrenaline, and that adrenaline spike will actually help dull the pain for you. And that's a normal physiological response. But your body can only produce adrenaline in 30-minute spurts. So you're not going to have that the entire time. Then you're going to be dropping down, you're going to be getting some cortisol, you're going to be getting some dopamine, some other pieces, which can actually increase the sensation of pain, except for some people it decreases the sensation of pain. This is why it's so hard to tell. And so I usually tell people, expect it to hurt worse sometimes and then not hurt as bad other times, and it'll come and go in waves.
I mean, you're a tattoo artist, but honestly, what you're describing, there's a science behind it. I mean, there's a lot going on into it. Let me ask you, you apprenticed, like you said, and you learned quite a bit there. You call yourself a hybrid pro. What does that mean to you?
So hybrid professional, it's not my term. I'll have to remember who coined the term, but basically what it means is that I do a lot of different things. So in addition to tattooing, I run a consulting business where I talk to companies about diversity, equity, and inclusion issues, particularly around gender and sexual minorities, also around race, also around neurodiversity, and much else. So that's something that I do part-time.
Interesting.
I also pick up jobs kind of here and there doing all different kinds of things. I used to have several more and I've kind of pared things down. But the hybrid piece comes from the fact that I feel like none of these jobs are in isolation. They all influence each other. So the way that I think about being an artist, about being a tattoo artist, influences the way that I think about consulting with people, and it influences the way that I'm able to visually present information. And then being a consultant, and especially working in diversity, equity, and inclusion, helps me to understand what I want to be doing in my tattoo practice, the kind of clients I want to serve, who has historically not been served by tattoo spaces, and then to help to bring those people in.
That's a great answer. That's fantastic. I mean, lastly, we said before that you've had your art in galleries before. The medium of a canvas. This is quite different. Mm-hmm. This is something that you get one shot at it, and here it is. Do you almost feel like you take the tattoo part of it even more serious than you do the fine art because of the fact that people have put trust in you? And is that something that's rewarding to you, knowing that you're basically giving them something that they maybe thought about for years?
I do feel that way. I feel like it's a great privilege, and it's wonderful to be trusted with something so important. And for me, there's a human connection there that is different from most other work, I think. You get to a very deep place with somebody very quickly. Yeah. And I also feel like it helps me to be in flow more quickly, because I don't have time to try to get in the zone. I need to be in the zone. And that's a really gratifying feeling, to show up to work, and as soon as I start working with a person and we're putting in lines, I'm fully focused and present, which is really wonderful.
Excellent. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is his contact information there. Check out the website, and obviously take a look at a lot of the work that he's done there. You can basically see some of the flash gallery he has provided. You're not going to walk in and see the typical flash gallery that you would at a typical setup. This is a very personalized approach. It's high touch. We're talking about a tattoo artist, but at the same time, he's utilizing technology by using Zoom and making it easy for you to reach out, get a consultation, and find out if this is something you would like to do. Also, keep in mind that this is an individual who brings a lot to the table, not only as an artist, but really as somebody who has found a way to connect with the community in this way. That is Meadowlark Tattoo, located right here in Fort Collins, Colorado. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.